Welcome to Mindshift. We have Mindshift today with a very special person next to me. I'm gonna introduce him in a minute, but just to let you know, for the people who haven't been here, to share with you that the main purpose of Mindshift is to help you create atomic shifts in your mind so that you can lead your life with more prosperity, love, and satisfaction. Today we're going to talk about leadership. And we're going to talk about a specific topic, which is called leading from your core. The person who is here today, as I said, is a very special person. He is part of the book which I was co-authoring with him and other co-authors, which is called Visionary Male Leaders. You can see behind me the full group of people there. And he also has his own book, which is called Leading from Your Core. He is going to talk a little bit more about it. And he is a great coach, great trainer, consultant. He's amazing when it comes to leadership, been through so much in his life, and he can share so many great things with us. But the most important thing for him, which I realized, is that he's real, he's authentic, and he's embodiment of what he's talking about. And I'm really, really, really excited to introduce you, Obi Abuchi. Welcome, man.
Hey, Jimmy. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction, and real delight to be on the show with you now, and looking forward to our conversation and the way it will serve people. I'm sure it will. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, thank you, man. So share with us a little bit more who you are.
Sure. So always different ways of describing oneself. I'll start on the personal side. So I'm married to an amazing woman, Obi Abuchi, who's a poet, an educator. And we have 3 boys, 14, 12, and 10. So lots of testosterone and energy in our house. I'm also CEO of Core Leaders International, which is coaching and training company specifically focused on personal mastery as a leader. We can talk a bit more about that later. And I'm an author, as you said, co-authored Visionary Male Leaders, and written 2 of my own books as well, The Magic of Monday and Leading from Your Core, and absolutely passionate about everything to do with the leadership and personal leadership. And I love speaking, I love training, I love coaching, and helping leaders be more purposeful, more authentic, more courageous in the way that they lead. So that's a bit about me.
Whoa. People here, we have a lot of things here to talk about today. So tell me now, I want to hear your story. One of the things which I love talking about here is the story of people, because the things which you achieved in your life, what you're devoted right now, very often is connected with what you've been through in your life. So I want you to hear everything. I want to hear your, the pain. I want to hear the challenges. I want to hear the successes, because this is the real thing, right, man? So just let me know, how your story led you to where you are today here.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Whew. You want to hear everything. That's I got to dig deep here. I'll start off with some personal bits. So I was born in the UK. So I live in the UK now. I was born in the UK, and I've got an older sister, and my mum and dad, they got divorced, or they separated when I was a few months old, and then got divorced when I was 7. And I'll come back to some of the trauma that had, because actually that's been a journey for me. But shortly after they got divorced, my mum moved back to Nigeria. So we all moved back to Nigeria. And because we were going back for good, so to speak, they thought that we should go back by boat. And so we took a 2-week trip back from the UK to Lagos, Nigeria. And something incredible happened on that trip. I watched a film called Return to Eden, which is set in the outback of Australia And in the movie, there's a wealthy family and they have a daughter, and this daughter marries a washed out tennis player who's only interested in her for her money. And shortly after the movie starts, they're married, and he throws her off the boat into a crocodile-infested swamp and leaves her for dead. And he's having an affair with her best friend. And so he's like, she's out of the way. I've got her money, and we can go and live happily ever after. So she's almost mauled to death by this crocodile. And luckily an older man comes and shoots the crocodile and gets her into his boat and does what he can to help her begin to heal, and then gives her some money and to go to a local clinic. Now, some people might think, Obi, that's a really gory story. You shouldn't have been watching that when you were 7. But anyway, I was. But then it's what happened at the clinic that was quite profound for me, because at the clinic, the doctor performs plastic surgery on her and transforms her into, she ends up becoming a model and sets up a modeling agency and is confident, and she ends up getting revenge on her husband or ex-husband, actually husband, because they weren't divorced, and then that the story kind of ends there. But as a 7-year-old, I remember looking at the doctor and what he did, and I thought the doctor did something that made this woman more confident, that made her find her purpose in a sense, that made her be courageous. And I thought to myself as a 7-year-old, I want to do that. And I want to become a doctor, because doctors bring out the best in people. Now, fast forward 11 years later, I come back to the UK and I'm really excited about being a doctor. I actually came back when I was 17. So 10 years later. And I'm excited about being a doctor, and I'm shadowing doctors at hospitals. I have interviews at Cambridge University and King's College and St. George's. These are some top places here in the UK. And then the feedback I get from the interviews is, Obi is not interested in science. And my whole world falls apart, because for 10 years, I've been committed to nothing else. But everyone asked me, hey, what are you going to be? I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a doctor. And I had great grades, so that really wasn't going to be an issue. But for some reason, they said Obi's not interested in science. And I was at this crossroads as a 17, 18-year-old thinking, what do I do? Because there was nothing else that I wanted to do. And I remember standing outside one of the dean of medicine at one of the universities, and I thought, I'm going to go into his office and say, sir, I'm not leaving until you get me into this medical school, because this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. But I couldn't say hand on heart, that's what I wanted to do. And so I decided, all right, I've just got to try and figure out another path. And I ended up studying engineering with management. However, before that, and this is sort of part of my story to where I am today, a mentor of mine, when I was 18, gave me a copy of Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And that really, in some ways, is the genesis of my passion for personal leadership. Now, I didn't know much about leadership at the time. I wasn't really thinking of it. At that time, I was still thinking about being a doctor, right? But the Stephen Covey's book suddenly made me realize about the importance of developing myself and growing. And I remember going through all of the pages. I probably wrote something on every single page, and it just blew my mind. And I gained this passion at that point for personal mastery and making sure that I'm at my best so that I can do my best in whatever it is I'm doing. So I then, shortly after, I go to university, I study engineering with management, I graduate, I join an engineering firm, and then I realize I'm not interested in engineering. I want to work with people. And so I very quickly navigate my way out of engineering into consultancy and change management and leadership development. I wanted to start my own business, and I started my business shortly after leaving this engineering firm, but the business flopped. I say to people, I had a lot of zeal, but not a lot of knowledge. And that was when I started realizing some of the tension of, just because you have a great idea doesn't mean you have all of the tools either around you or inside of you to achieve that. And it was a real tension, because I thought, but I want to make a difference, and I want to help people, and I want to coach. And I became an NLP practitioner and a coach, and I thought I want to make a difference, but I just didn't know how to make business work. And that was really frustrating for me. And so I then started doing some interim leadership work and development work. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to go back and start this business again. The market it wasn't the right time in the market. Well, for me anyway, I felt it wasn't the right time in the market. I just, again, hadn't really mastered some of the business practicals. And I went through this really dark period of depression and suicidal thoughts, and just thinking, Obi, you just don't have what it takes. This pain, I felt like a fraud. I felt like an imposter. I thought, here you are saying you want to make a difference, and you can't even handle difficulties and challenges yourself. And I just thought, I want out. Luckily, some different opportunities came my way, and I ended up joining a consultancy and really then going deep into training and coaching and helping leaders take it to a completely different level. But before all of that, because I'm in a sense cutting out some of the really dark periods, during that period of depression and suicidal thoughts, I came across this quote by Aristotle that the hardest victory is over self. And it then brought me back to the work with Stephen Covey's book. And I realized, Obi, this is something you've really got to master. If you want to make a difference, if you want to be an effective leader, if you want to be a great husband, a great father, a great friend, all of that stuff, the foundation is all that's going on inside of you. How are you dealing with your conflict? How are you dealing with your conflict in values? How are you dealing with your beliefs, your limiting beliefs? How are you dealing with imposter syndrome in your own life? And so I realized I've got to work harder on myself than I do on anything else around me, because that's the only thing I can control, the only thing I can manage. I can't control. None of us can control the pandemic, right? None of us can control what's going on externally, what our clients say, all of that. But what we can control is our own choice and the decisions that we make in any of those situations. So a few years ago, after working with the consultancy, I decided it was time for me to write my next book, mainly because my mum was diagnosed with Alzheimer's about 7 years ago, and she was encouraging me to write my next book. And as her memory declined, I felt I wanted to write that book while she could still remember, while she could still remember and celebrate with me. Sadly, she didn't really remember. She's still around, but she doesn't remember my first book now. But anyway, I still feel incredibly grateful that she encouraged me to do that. And off the back of the book, started working on my business, Core Leaders International, and building a team of coaches that can serve leaders all around the world, particularly in the area of personal mastery. So that's some of my story. There's obviously so much more that can be said, but it gives you a bit of an idea of why I'm doing what I'm doing today, and particularly why I'm passionate about personal mastery and personal leadership.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for sharing. I just wanted to, it's a privilege to hear the story of someone like you who've been through all of these things in life. And also people, when you listen to that, you just want you to relate to Obi, because every one of us goes through a dark period. Maybe now is a dark period, maybe it was before, maybe it will be in the future. But what we want to understand, at least what I'm taking for me in this, from what he said, was that everyone is going through that. That doesn't mean that we are not good enough or there is something broken with us, but it's just part of the way, it's just part of the journey, and it's the thing which actually builds us and prepares us for the next steps in our lives.
Without a doubt.
And this is very important to stay here with this, and even if you're listening to that, just stop it and stay a little bit with this awareness, because that is going to help you tremendously in your life, no matter